Straight out of Ronkonkoma comes Long Island's #1 wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh. And with me, as always, to my right is... Wait, you're not Jimmy Pharaoh.
I'm not? Who am I?
I got Phil DeCesare. Wait, I'm not Monte.
Yeah.
Why would we call this Monte and the Pharaoh at this point?
We're going to just have to live off their name for a while.
No,
we're hardly established. But we do thank them very much for
allowing us to do
trusting us,
this.
giving us the keys to the car, Bruce.
All right, and if you don't know who this guy to my right is, this is Phil DeCesare, Mr. President, the president of Thursday nights.
Woo! Welcome all.
And if you don't know who I am, this is Bruce. I'm ESO, one of the co-hosts of the 30 on Thursday nights.
And the creator of this shirt, I think.
Yeah, I did that too.
Pretty sweet, man.
So, yeah, if you don't know who we are, we do a couple of other things on the channel, and Mike asked us to fill in tonight, and we get the honor of interviewing two wrestling legends. We have on the couch tonight, we have Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond. Bad Company, also known as the Orient Express.
Wow. Hey, guys. How's it going?
How's it going, guys?
Great to
Awesome.
be here.
What an
Great
honor,
to be
man.
here.
And what a day, huh? You guys are feeling it. You were there early, too. We were there early, and so many people to see, just so much activity going on, just a lot of time there. So we thank you for making it to the couch tonight.
No problem. And actually, the long day started for us yesterday. But anyways.
Did it really?
Yeah. So we had another...
So you had 2 in a row then?
Yes, 2 in a row and going for 3.
Awesome,
tomorrow
man.
morning.
You guys are warriors. Absolutely.
As always.
Yeah.
And before we get started, we have to thank the band who sings the song to the Monte and the Pharaoh show, Wisteria Hall. Wisteria Hall is made up of our own Jimmy Pharaoh and his partner, Bart Griggs.
Bart, man.
They sing some amazing songs that I can't remember off the top of my head because I don't have a script in front of me. But trust me, they are amazing. You can find them on YouTube and download them there. And you can also find them on Spotify and all the streaming services. And while you're at it, you might as well try and find the Monte and the Pharaoh show. They're available every Thursday night live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. They are also on the Intuitive app. If you don't know what that is, you have to check it out. There's all kinds of documentaries, TV shows, comedies. You name it, it's on there, and it features on Thursday nights Long Island's #1 broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh.
And we spell intuitive, Bruce. I-N, number 2. Thank you for the graphics. I-T-I-V-E. Intuitive.
Awesome.
Say it, spell it, say it.
So, yeah, if you didn't know, today we had an awesome day. We were down in Long Island for an event called The Big Event, and we got to see some amazing people. Phil, did you have some fun today?
It was a fantastic time, man. Awesome.
What was the highlight for you?
Wow. I was amazed at the lines. I was just amazed at all the people there. It was so weird to see people like Tully Blanchard walk by us.
Well, standing right by us.
and then have Magnum TA come to the studio today, and we've got Bad Company, as I remember them. I certainly remember them as Orient Express, but these guys came in at a time really when tag teams were flourishing.
Yeah, that was the hottest time.
Yeah, and you guys both have unique starts, both athletic starts. Paul, you actually were a soccer player, right, before all of this. Is that true?
Yes, very true. I was
good
actually grew up in country doesn't exist anymore. It was Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
I am actually Croatian.
Fantastic.
So there is Croatia these days. But yeah, so I grew up. I saw over there soccer is everything, man. That's the only thing we had. Back then. It's just the only thing I knew, basically. And my father had played soccer, so it's something that I wanted to do real bad. So moved to Canada at 14 and finished high school and then got a college scholarship.
You went to school in Virginia?
Yes, Old Dominion.
Old Dominion. That's where our 2 guests ago, Magnum TA was an Old Dominion guy.
Oh, man,
I think he was.
I think
he's. He might be either 2 years before or after you, but he was down there on a. I think a wrestling scholarship.
Okay, yeah,
so,
for sure.
So what a small world, okay?
Right.
2 of
The
our
likelihood
guests
of
here
that, right, yeah.
went to the same university, all athletic scholarships and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and
within a few years
sitting
of
on
each
this couch, too, within like 2 years of each other.
Yeah.
And you went on, of course, to play soccer in Canada
No, no, yeah. Well, actually, the first year. So,
Well, in Florida, right?
After Old Dominion, after my sophomore
Yep.
season, I never went to college to actually, unfortunately, get an education. Sorry, mom and dad, but it was to play soccer, and I got an opportunity to play professionally. Back in the day, there was the North American Soccer League.
Yes,
you
NASL.
know,
Yeah.
right? And so there was an expansion team, the Calgary Boomers. So yes, it was Canada.
Okay.
And I got drafted in 1980.
Yeah.
Woohoo! 6th pick overall in the first round of the 1980 North American Soccer League draft.
That's incredible, man.
With a signing bonus of a whopping $1,500.
Hey, man. Back then you could buy a Hyundai with that, or maybe a VCR. Remember VCRs used to be that
Yeah, they
expensive.
were.
Right,
Remember?
yeah.
Wow,
Think
crazy.
But yeah, so I spent a year in Canada. The team wound up folding after one season.
Wow.
And then they have a dispersal draft, so other teams have a chance to pick you up. And I wound up in Tampa with the Tampa Bay Rowdies for the following 3-4 seasons. Until
Fantastic.
then, the league folded, and
Yeah. And you were a goalkeeper, right?
I was.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. My father was a goalkeeper. I was a goalkeeper.
You have a kid
My
who plays.
son, which is now he's an assistant soccer coach at a college in Williamsburg, was a goalkeeper as well. So.
Wow.
Could you
Runs
imagine
in
if soccer
family.
were as big then as it is now? I mean,
Oh yeah.
And did a headbutt figure in your repertoire? Did you use that because you were headbutting soccer balls? You
No,
probably,
as goalkeepers don't use their heads.
they don't, do they? Okay. No headers there, then.
No headers.
Oh,
No,
good.
absolutely
good.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pat, of course, you made the jump right to wrestling from the start. And you, of course, come from a very famous wrestling lineage. Your dad was such a pivotal figure in Florida for many years. Am I saying his name right? Duke Kiyomuka.
Kiyomuka, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was a major player in Florida, not just as a wrestler, but I think also working with Eddie Graham, wasn't he, at one
Right.
point?
They were partners.
Yeah, they were partners. And I think there was a name Cowboy Luttrell, I remember as
Yes,
well,
Cowboy
part of
Luttrell.
it. I remember reading. Yeah, they were the major brains, I think, in the organization. You were trained by your dad, and you were also trained by someone else who's had a hand in training some
Hiro
wrestlers.
Matsuda.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Hiro.
Well, I'll tell you what. He was the real deal.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. I mean, between him training Hulk Hogan
Sure.
and Brian Blair, all these greats that were before him, Paul Orndorff,
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
70s class.
Yeah. Quite a
he's
bit.
the one that taught you what respect was. You know,
Did he?
Of anything.
Yeah.
He would break you quickly.
Yeah. And by
Like-
break, Pat, you don't just mean figuratively break.
No.
You mean,
He would go ahead and break your leg if you weren't behaving right.
sure.
Just to teach you what really respect is.
Yeah.
If you didn't have it, he was going to hurt you.
Sure.
You know, and you know, he had broken Hulk's leg. And
Yeah.
and I didn't understand that a lot because Hulk wasn't I mean, he wasn't disrespectful in any manner at the time.
Sure.
I think because he was so big, I think they were trying to show everybody what it was to be a real shooter.
Absolutely. And
You
maybe
know.
try to dissuade these bigger guys who think they can just come in off the street and,
Right.
and jump into it.
It was
you
a whole
know.
different era than it is now. I mean, back then it was kayfabe.
Yeah.
Now, you know, everybody talks about spots. And
Yeah.
fans talk about spots. We're
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
a little, yeah.
Does it bother you, like us smart fans out there? Does it bother you that wrestling's transitioned to this type of environment?
To me, yeah, it really does. And I'll tell you why. It's because when we started this a long time ago, we even talk carny just to get around people, right?
Yeah.
Now people talk carny to us. We're like, Christ, what the, you know? But it was different, you know. I mean, we were there, and they would fine us or fire us for talking to, you know, our opponents, right?
Sure.
If we were working with you,
Yeah.
you stay away from us, right?
Sure.
And
No
don't talk
interactions
to
at
us.
all. You guys had separate dressing rooms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, you left probably separate entrances
Right.
come in and out.
And I was a referee.
Yeah, you got your start. Yeah, in the
Right,
strikes,
and
sure.
in fact, Magnum TA,
Yeah,
we all were like together at the time. We every day traveled together.
yeah.
And I tell you what, I mean, that guy was going to be the biggest star ever.
You saw that from the beginning, then, didn't you?
Oh God,
Yeah.
man! I mean, his looks, the way he worked, everything.
A natural charisma, I think,
Absolutely.
about him too. Yeah.
And I guess it just some things happen for a reason. I mean,
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I always thought he was going to be, like my boss someday.
Sure. Yeah.
But he always took care of me. And I haven't seen or talked to him since then. And
You didn't get a chance to cross paths today at all, huh?
I did today for the
Yeah.
first time. It was amazing. I was all teared up.
Of course.
Trying to stay away from, being all, mushy,
Yeah, no, man, it's good. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just evoking a lot of old memories,
Wow.
And
I mean,
you
God,
both are survivors, okay? Anyone in this business, and you guys, if we look at teams from the '80s,
Jeez.
just to have a team who's still intact is an amazing thing right now. We've lost whole teams over the course of the generations, or at least one member of each team. So.
Right. And it's amazing. It's amazing I'm here or Paul's here.
Yeah.
Truly amazing.
Woo.
Yeah. Truly amazing.
God, I mean, what's really amazing is the team that was here before us too.
They,
I mean, that
they
we're
were saying
all.
the very same thing. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
While we're on that, on those type of subjects, Paul, we got in a little bit of a discussion on that. And what do you guys think about, especially nowadays? It seems to be cleaned it up, but kind of the darker side of pro wrestling, and all the young deaths and the issues with like the painkillers, the drugs, the somas, and how did that affect you guys coming through?
well, I missed the fuck out of that. No, honestly, man. I mean, it really. To me. Paul will tell you, man. I mean, I had to go away for a long time to get away from it. I
Yeah.
mean, they put me in a place where they threw away the key for a year,
Sure.
and made sure, because
Yeah.
I told them, if you let me out, I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I explained to them, and so they did. They put me away for a year.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I guess, both of us, I spent 6 months in a rehab facility back in 2019 after nearly 30 years of use and abuse.
Sure.
And it started with injuries.
Yeah.
Back then we were probably working 22 to 25 days a month.
Yeah.
Nobody cared how hurt you are if you were hurt. And you didn't want to miss a day because if you did, they put somebody else in your spot, and pretty soon you'd be out of a job.
Yeah.
And so that one thing led to another, and you all of a sudden wind up in a place where you don't want to be and can't handle. So there's
Sure.
only eventually, at least for me, I arrived at a place where, and both of us realized that we needed help.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people that we've known and you guys just mentioned
Yeah.
are no longer here because they never got to that place.
Right.
Yeah.
Never got a chance to get.
I mean, for Paul, it was a different story. He was injured, had, it's on the scripts and stuff like that. For me, just all out, balls out. I was just fucking wanted to party all the time.
Well, you worked with some teams, and again, you came up at a time when it was these young, flashy teams, and again, your style was very.
It's also the rock and roll era of
It's
the
the
80s.
rock and roll. You're exactly
I mean,
right.
that's-
You were, yeah. I mean, aside from teams called the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Rockers, the Rock and Roll RPMs, all teams that you guys have faced before. It was rock and roll 24/7, man.
You ain't
You know.
kidding.
You know what though? So I'm going to just break in here just for a second. I think that obviously we've discussed this a lot of times. For Patrick, he was, how old were you? Like 15 or whatever. He was around guys that worked for his dad before he
Yeah.
got into the business. And what were you seeing, right?
Oh my God.
The Terry
Yeah.
Funks and all those guys, man, were partying like crazy, and he was. So that's the only thing he knew.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the other it just the way he grew up, and what he saw from the business was you partied your ass off.
Yeah. You worked hard, you played hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't really have a job if you didn't.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a way, I think if you're sober or straight edge, you're kind of an outcast. Maybe there's not a trust factor
for sure.
there,
For back then, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess everyone bonded at the bar, so to speak. And
I mean, our biggest break was out of partying, and pretty much partying with Wahoo McDaniels and Ray Stevens.
Wahoo could tear it. Well, yeah. You bring up two interesting names, Pat.
They were our heroes, man.
Yeah. Well. For many reasons, those two names are very interesting. The Nasty Boys, who were just in earlier, and who were very kind to you guys.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Mentioned that they were fired in the AWA by those two very guys. Who, last time I checked, weren't choir boys in church.
No. How you get fired by them, I have no clue. I mean.
Yeah, you must have to be pretty nasty to do that.
And they were that for sure.
Yeah, but Pat got to see these guys in their heyday, in their infamy, and be a part of it.
And you were a young kid growing up, and that's what you see, man. What am I gonna do?
Yeah,
I'm gonna follow that.
Yeah.
Like Paul watched pro wrestling when he was. Me, it was a whole different world. We weren't allowed to watch it.
Isn't that interesting?
My dad kept us away.
You never went down to the Armory or anywhere
He took us like a couple times, and I saw
Yeah.
Jack and Jerry wrestle. I can't remember who they were wrestling, but man, I mean, they had me going. You know what I'm saying? Even though, I thought it was work. My dad would never tell us it's a work.
Yeah,
he would kayfabe all the way. I mean, I told him. I came home from school one day and I said, Dad, is that stuff fake like that? I've never been hit so hard in my life.
I bet. Oh, Pat.
Yeah, and that's the last time I ever asked, And I saw my gym school teacher ask my old man and called my old man, hey, you do that fake stuff still like that? And my old man chopped him.
Wow.
Knocked him on his ass.
Wow.
And, yeah, we lost a lot of money on that one. But I mean, it was crazy growing up like that, So I was lost because between knowing it's a work, because I was an amateur wrestler.
Oh yeah.
And I was really lost because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, can I say it to work? To my friends or
yeah. You're walking on eggshells.
And my old man would
this.
say, I'd kill you if you did,
And he didn't
crazy.
want you to see him suffering in the ring, thinking this is really happening to him. So.
And I was a kid,
that can,
it was different.
Sure,
very
damaging too.
Yeah. I mean, I could remember just crazy stuff happening back then,
And your styles evolved over the years, and of course, being a tag team, I think that gives you just a better structure or ability to practice double teaming moves, high flying, and that sort of thing. You guys are both very athletic in the ring. Paul had a very athletic look to you, and still you guys are still keeping above board here and staying in shape. And Pat, the bumps you took are... Again,
Legend.
Pat's sitting on our couch, mind you, today, and he's, if you don't mind me saying, has a little bit of a headache from the day's activities, and I have to wonder how much of that isn't just residual from those spinning clotheslines or those backdrops where you do, what I want to ask what possesses you to go that extra distance to, and
I mean, it made your opponents look amazing.
You absolutely making your opponents look amazing. Now, what would your dad have thought of that, the style of that style, do you think? That was, impressed with that?
Well, to tell you the truth, it wasn't because I was trying to go that extra mile. It was because I knew, if you look at me, you look at Paul, right? I had no body. I didn't have the looks Paul had. He was ripped to shreds. I'm a little doughboy walking around, and
But you had
I
great
knew
outfits.
what I had to do. I knew what my job was.
And it was unbelievable. I mean,
know?
to this day, I think that work stands, which is really saying something.
I've never
Very
seen
good.
anyone take a faster bump than.
Yeah.
Right?
Because if you think about it, I mean, Paul looked great, ripped to shreds, good-looking
Absolutely.
guy. Here I am. I'm trying to think. What can I do? What do I bring to this team?
Yeah.
And so I had to work it hard to where, man, I said I'm gonna make this guy look like a god out there. And when we worked with the Doom,
Yeah.
everybody thought that you're just going to be job boy for him. Well, hell, I'm going to make sure I'm going to be the best job boy I've ever been in my life,
And I'm sure that I would assume that they would be appreciative in response
They were,
to the
and
efforts.
we enjoyed it
was another
immensely,
great
man.
tag
It
team,
was
too.
great,
Yeah.
and
It
actually
was the best times of our lives working with
the,
them.
the,
That was
the
one-
people
they
in the
were-
office appreciated it too.
Yeah.
It was. I think we were on tour in Canada, and Pat Patterson was in Montreal,
Yeah.
and we worked Legion of Doom. And man, the next week we got a hefty bonus in our check, which was really, wow, they really
Yeah.
did appreciate what we did. But yeah, we
Yeah, you don't often hear of that either.
bumped our
you know?
asses off.
Yeah. Well, again, you worked with great talent in the AWA when you were there, and certainly when you were
Oh yeah, yeah.
down south. But I'm thinking of teams like Playboy Buddy Rose and Doug
Wow.
Summers.
Well, while we're on that subject, we
Yeah.
actually have a question from the chat room. The First Lady of Wrestling.
Maria.
Yeah,
Maria
she
Davis.
she wanted to know who were some of the favorite tag team opponents of you guys.
Oh well, there's one without question, which would be the Rockers. We
Especially
had
those early days.
Feud in AWA,
Yeah.
and then of course also as Orient Express in WWF. So man, I don't know. It was just the chemistry of the four of us was unmatched, and you didn't really have to think it just kind of all fell into place. And everybody, and even today at the event, some people mention, oh my God, that 1991 Royal Rumble, that should be used as an instructional video or
Yeah.
something. But so it was just something that we did, and we kind of were a little bit ahead of our time. But the four of us, man, we could, once we got together,
Sure.
just nothing was
So-
impossible.
So while we're on the subject of the Rockers, so back in your earlier days, back in San Antonio, I hear you had a tag team partner that would later become known as the showstopper there, and
I did, and I don't know, how many people are aware. When I started, the second place I had a job was in San Antonio, Texas All-Star Wrestling, which was known as Southwest Championship
Blanchard.
Wrestling. Well, Joe Blanchard owned that and wound up selling it to a guy named Fred Barron.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels at the time, he was working for Bill Watts in Louisiana, and his home is San Antonio, so they brought him back home.
Yeah.
And he was 19 years old. There are a few pictures floating around. I mean, it's amazing the difference that you see.
He was
that.
actually a
But-
kid back
He
then.
wa-
Yes,
looks
very,
like a
very,
kid.
very
He was
much
a
so.
kid,
A
yeah.
Yeah, he was
soft,
19 years old.
skinny,
Yeah.
short hair kid, right? And but they were looking to put together a babyface tag team, and the way it worked out is Shawn and I became the American Force.
Oh.
Half of it was Croatian, Canadian, and
I was
the other
gonna
half.
say, yeah. And before Shawn came in the picture of American Force, you had another partner.
I did actually.
few- Go ahead. Yeah.
Frankie the Thumper Lancaster was
Okay.
one of them, and Nick Kaniski was the
Yes,
other.
who was decidedly not an American himself
No,
either.
so it was a Canadian
Yeah.
force actually at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's nice that you were both foreign-born, yet you were faces, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
they seem to make Canadians into heels a lot of the time, and usually
True.
foreign heels.
Yeah.
you
No.
know?
No. Yeah. Right.
But
yeah. Yeah.
so-
But obviously, so I was there. Neither of those guys really worked out for what they were looking for, and
Yeah.
and by that time, Shawn had just returned from Louisiana.
Yeah.
And they was gonna give it a try, with him and I.
Yeah.
And actually, they gave us a good push there, and it worked out pretty well. I think we'd at that point they were trying to get at least a sort of somewhat of a big show. So the sheep herders are better known as the bushwhackers. They brought them in.
I got to see Luke.
Yes.
Yes, and we wound up working with those guys
Sure.
as the sheep herders in San Antonio at one of the shows.
And
So.
boy, were they hardcore and
They were hardcore.
They
hardcore.
were. So that must have
As
been
hardcore
Yeah.
gets. Yeah.
Yeah, they were one of the originators. Who else was doing it back then? Maybe Abdullah.
Yeah, Brody and
Brody,
a few others like that. Southwest seemed to be
Well, they were
at least
they were
the old
you know they were
Southwest
booking
used
at
to
the
be.
time, and they were blood and guts.
They
So
were.
that's what Southwest
Yes.
was.
It was.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So there's some crazy spot. They used to be on the USA Network for
Yes,
a while
right
too.
before Vince took that
Yeah.
away from him. Yeah.
So even after this time, we had a little bit of a conversation earlier, which was something that was pretty enlightening about Shawn Michaels. So
Yeah.
even back when you were tagging with him, he didn't exactly want to be a tag team wrestler.
No, he made it perfectly clear from day one that we were a tag team, that he was going to be a singles wrestler, right? And so a few months later, his trainer Jose Lothario
Super
got him a
Sock,
job
yeah.
with Vince Vern Gagne in Minneapolis, and Shawn was on his way and ready to hit the big time. And what do you get, Marty?
Yeah.
For the next, which I wasn't a bad thing. Obviously, he needed that to get to the eventual point where he's at.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how you look at that tag team. I don't know about you guys. When I look at them in the beginning, I look at Marty as the more experienced. He really seemed to lead that tag team in the beginning, and then
Yeah.
over that course of that 8 years, how much that flip flopped.
Yeah, well, and that's true. I think, and from day one, Shawn saw the trophy. He knew what he wanted.
His eye was on that prize.
Marty's trophy was partying.
Yeah.
So
The woman
that's
of the
how
night.
things
It still
sorta-
is, I think.
What's-
Yes, right.
God
You
love
know,
him. God
yeah.
love him.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, so they definitely did flip around because, like I said, Shawn definitely always could see what he wanted.
Yeah,
And
he had the
there was
prize in
nothing
front
was
of
going to
him.
stop him.
Yeah.
To get that.
Yeah, and I guess that leads into getting into the Tennessee territories, where I guess you picked up that new tag team partner.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
seemed
I
to kinda latch onto for a couple years.
after Shawn left Texas for the AWA, I was left by myself, and Gary Hart actually had just started booking, and then it just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
And so he managed to send me to Tennessee shortly after Shawn had left. And when I first got there, I worked as a babyface, and Pat still wasn't there. Shortly after, he showed up there from Crockett's from Carolina, and one thing led to another, and we wound up, as a tag team, never ever imagining that we'd be sitting here, years and
30
years
years,
later,
35, 40 years later.
right, and having had the kind of career that we did. But yeah, no, I mean, we finally got put together. Jeff Jarrett had just started wrestling.
Sure.
And Pat had a heck of a storyline program with Jeff when Jeff first started, and then it got me involved in it, turned me heel, where we, Jerry Jarrett wanted to make Jeff, a superhero, so we both of
Yeah.
us couldn't beat him up.
Yeah,
But
of course.
yeah, so that's how we wound up together. And then eventually the name of Bad Company, but it was kind of a slow process, and obviously it's going to take time for you to realize, hey, this might be something we could do long term.
Sure. And then from there, it was on to the
So,
snowier white north. Well, I want to
while we're still back there.
Yeah.
So originally
The
they
warm
had tomorrow night we actually have in studio Harvey Whippleman, and
Yeah.
so I hear that was
Harvey,
one of your
better-
original managers.
Better known as Downtown
Don
Bruno.
Bruno,
Yes, yeah. Actually, at the time that we were there, also a young Paul Heyman was there,
Yeah.
and we really wanted Paul Heyman as our manager.
You saw something. in
Well,
Paul
we
Heyman.
didn't get Paul Heyman. We got Downtown Bruno.
Yeah.
So
My
I'm
God.
not sure why or how.
Might have been a blessing.
Paul managed some other guys, obviously, but yeah, we thought that Paul would have been a much better fit for
Sure.
what
How
we were
young would he
doing.
have been? That was just before AWA.
Yeah, but who am I to know? Like, Jerry Lawler and Jerry, they're
Listen,
great minds. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think he did too bad with the manager he came into AWA with, though. I mean, Diamond Dallas Page, that was quite a mouthpiece for you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's what we needed. I've always, was always aware of my shortcomings in this business, and that was the mic.
Yeah.
I just didn't have it. Pat knows he doesn't have it, so we needed a mouthpiece. So luckily, Paige had sent in his whatever video to keep saying Vince Vern,
Yeah.
and they brought him in. And it really helped, a great mouthpiece. And plus, there's another guy that had, a vision, had great ideas right from the beginning, right? The way he dressed. And he brought the diamond dolls, and it was just made it such a bigger thing than what it really was. And that was awesome.
I read the McFoley book, and I made reference to this maybe in another one of the broadcasts, but McFoley was talking to Abdul the Butcher. They were in a parking lot down south when they were both down in Atlanta. Paige walked by to get in his car, and Abby looked to Cactus and said, "Paige is going to make it." And Cactus says, "Why?" And Abby said, "Because he lives the gimmick." And he seemed to, and again, which is a blessing in many ways, but
Right.
for some it can be a tough deal to try to live up to too. But
That's true. That's true.
But he did pretty great for himself, and he's helped a lot of people along the way too.
Right now he has, right? But
Yeah.
the way that he got into the business, and then just asking people, because so his finisher, right, the diamond cutter,
Yeah.
right? Well, God, he tried to figure out what is it that you needed to do to be successful.
Yeah.
Guess who he talked to? Jake Roberts.
Of course.
What's his finish?
The DDT.
What's the only thing he ever did?
The DDT. Yeah. Yeah.
So he came up with the diamond cutter, and
That brings to mind just a good question. I love these spontaneous things. Both those moves were, again, we use the term finisher because it
The end.
finished everything. You hit with it, that's it, baby. It's
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Today's a different story,
you
seemingly.
need about 10 of those,
let's not
then
even
still
talk
you're
about this.
kicking out.
Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
thoughts on these infinite number of false finishes and people kicking out of the finishes and that sort of
Well,
thing.
that's why now you need a gun.
Right? Is it going to come to that? I don't know. You're
I
right.
mean, I was
Pat.
waiting for that on
Well,
one of
you
the
know,
shows where they come out with the
And
shotgun.
then it'll be double
shoot the
barrel,
guy.
it'll be automatic, and then it's like, well,
Yeah.
Right,
No,
I mean-
that's just insane. I mean, nothing, literally nothing means anything.
right? Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
for me, so when we started, right, you were selling a whole at times. And it didn't take 10 clotheslines to beat somebody. And now you can get hit with all this stuff and you pop up and what does it really all mean? That nothing. It's just an acrobatic exhibition.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell the story anymore. There's no more of that wearing down
No,
to get to that
no,
finisher,
right,
to get to that.
right.
There's no
Well,
no lead up.
you know,
Nobody
to
holding
be
him in the
fair,
headlock.
when we were wrestling
Yeah.
and we were doing our things, Paul, I remember Ray Stevens and Wahoo going, guys, man, what's going to take to, beat you guys after that,
Yeah.
Because, we did the same thing. We did a lot more than we should have. And we
Maybe
did
we're a little bit guilty for pushing the
Do you
envelope.
think so?
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we were trying,
because-
what
yeah.
we were trying to do is
It needed it though at that point.
overcompensate.
I
we
mean,
were trying to be that next future.
Right.
Right.
Always, right?
Well, when
And
you're
that's
not
what-
300 pounds, you have to, get a little, do a little more.
True.
I was 175 pounds soaking wet, man.
That's
I was
amazing.
Putting rocks into my pants so I
That's
could get heavy.
amazing, man. Wow.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
hey, do we have to go to a break soon, don't we? So, while we have a second, guys, let's cut out for a quick break, and
Okay.
we'll be right back.
All right. Sounds good.
How long we?
Sir?
Ah,
Manscaped?
uh-huh.
Have you tried the new equipment that's been sent?
I'm afraid because it says weed whacker. I'm scared.
Maven, Manscaped. What are you thinking about
Love it.
Manscaped, dude?
Love it.
What do you use it for?
Necessity. What don't I use it for? Put it this way. The only hair I have on my entire body is these eyebrows.
Yeah.
That you see. These
Wow.
caterpillars racing to the middle of my nose. That's it.
That is it.
That's all I have. And that's all I want.
That's the
So
big-
Manscaped is a
You-
must.
We were talking before the show. There's nothing worse than just hair.
Yeah.
Right? Hair on a woman, hair on a man. It's just bad.
Absolutely. And it's the one thing that the older I get, it starts growing more in unwanted areas.
Absolutely.
I hate it.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
Just going to go out there.
Oh boy.
Go for it.
You're doing a deed.
Yes.
Again, I don't want you to have to admit this because we, as men, we try not to admit this. But if you're going to
Oh,
go
I
do
know
the deed
where-
on a
I
woman,
know where
would you
he's
rather
going.
have her be hairless or a little hair, racing stripe, or
Racing stripe.
full retro bush?
Well,
Racing stripe.
Retro Bush is out.
Yes, thank you.
Retro Bush is out.
Yeah.
I don't mind a small, well manicured landing strip. Every now and then, if it's completely, and I'm talking like baby's ass bald, then I start. Where is that pedophilia line? I don't want to
Wow.
wander into that.
That's
thought
very
of it like
interesting.
that.
I never thought about that. You're a
Wow.
smart dude. Holy shit.
So if the landing strip is clean enough for the plane to go in smoothly, you're cool with that.
If the landing strip has, like I said, well manicured,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can see both sides. It's not
Like blinking lights on both sides of that
I
landing?
just don't. I don't want. I don't want the shrubbery going off into unwanted areas on that as well.
Gotcha. Oh,
Yeah,
look
but-
what you found. Ooh.
I got to be all honest though. Hey, the older I get though, I don't think I can be as
I found it! I found
have
it!
you ever gone down there and she slowly brings down the underwear? Then
What is
retro? Just,
Absolutely.
You're like, whoa!
Wow,
Yeah,
like,
I'm 46,
like it
of
pops
course.
out?
Do you like walk out or what do you do?
No, I muster through. I muster up the courage to get
He's a
through.
trooper. He's a trooper. Gotta give him an A.
Oh, not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah,
There you go.
I hear you.
There you
Listen,
go.
I couldn't
Super
say.
Bush.
I couldn't say. Well, if you have the same beliefs as Maven, does Manscaped could help you?
Absolutely.
The weed whacker.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I may have to, go in a room, close the door, and hang out with the weed whacker for a little while.
Man, I think you're a retro guy, aren't you?
I like 70s adult films, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
But
only
with that,
Ron
we're going to take a
Jeremy,
quick
Batman.
commercial break, and we'll be
Anyway.
back with this wrestling icon, Maven.
We will see you in a drop kick second.
Drop kick.
And welcome back to Long Island's #1 wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh. Well, today it's Iso and Phil.
ESO and the Philo.
So, why don't we continue the line of questioning there? So, we're getting into the more into the out of the AWA days and more into the WWF days.
Okay.
So, let's talk a little bit about that transition. How did that kind of come about? It seemed like a lot of people were transitioning over from the AWA at that point, especially
Well-
tag team wise.
Yeah, the AWA was on its last legs, and actually it had been for probably a couple of years. I think when we moved up there, it already, most of the talent that they had, and they had everybody at one time, right? Including Hulk Hogan,
Yeah.
Bobby Heenan,
Yeah.
and Jesse DeBody, and
Mean Gene Okerlund.
Mean Gene, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So everybody was gone. And so we were fortunate that we got an opportunity to go up there and take advantage of it, and then still the Rockers were up there, so that sort of moved
transitioned
things
over.
along. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So we stayed there for as long as we could, and it was coming to where there was really not much left. They weren't running. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware, like AWA was one of the best territories.
Oh,
yeah,
to work.
absolutely.
I mean, you could work 15, 16 days a month
Yeah.
and make a great living. And
Absolutely. And
This-
summers were slow, too,
Oh,
weren't
yeah,
they?
yeah,
They didn't
yeah,
run much
right.
in the summer. You
Right.
could have yeah.
But at this point where we were there, man, they did the TVs and one show here, a couple of shows there. I just wasn't, and I actually at that point, I thought maybe I was going to get out of the business. I had no
Wow.
idea, and Pat had left, and the original Orient Express
Yeah.
had not. There was no Kato in that.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
it was the
So
other guy.
I was out of work. Pat
Yeah.
was working with Sato.
Yeah. Gears up, yeah.
And then one day, out of the blue, I got a call from the office at WWF.
And and you wrestled on obviously in a few incarnations under a mask, right?
What do you mean?
Did you wrestle under a mask at
No,
all?
it was only
Before that?
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay.
after he did too.
After, I mean, but so they called me and just what are you doing? I went out, just working as Paul Diamond.
Yep.
They wanted to have a look, and so when I started there, I really didn't have a full-time gig. And what I was seeing was I was kind of like a Barry, and Barry's a great worker,
I know,
and
yeah.
I don't mean to, demean or, but
He-
that's the kind of
He had a great
position.
role. He had
What
a
I
great
saw,
role,
that's
yeah.
what it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then shortly, maybe I don't know, a few months, get another call when I was at home, and I guess Sato had, Sato had decided to either go back to Japan or I'm not really sure. And before that call, there was one time when I was on the card in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and so were the Rockers.
Yeah.
And
I asked if
so-
Paul could be my partner that night.
Yeah.
right,
Because I said, man, we worked with him before, had great matches. Can we try it, please? And said okay. And I said, one more thing, can I take off my boots?
You know what I was going to ask you, because you are barefoot right now. I drive barefooted. I love it. I have these special shoes that are toe shoes that are wonderful too. And
You can ask Paul. I can't even walk in shoes. Seriously, man. I mean, I'm the most clumsy person in the world with shoes on.
and like your agility goes through the roof as soon as you are barefoot, right?
And that night,
Yeah.
I mean,
we had a heck of a match, and I think obviously that had something to do with when Sato left.
Yeah.
That they gave me a call and they said, yeah, come,
You
want
guys
to
had
be
great
part of
chemistry.
Orient Express, and I
Yeah.
went out there and they put the mask on and
Yep.
but we so yeah.
Now,
that was kind of
shoes, boots off, and mask on. That's yeah.
right.
mask
Yeah.
on,
Now
feet
you
off.
obviously like the boots and the shoes off.
I don't.
and,
I never understood why they made you wear boots. You couldn't.
Yeah, they made me wear boots because of the outfits we had.
Oh yeah.
And I
That's
hated
right.
that too.
Yeah, so we changed. So the outfits they had originally were just like the spandex tights.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was a part of it, we went to the judo pants and the gi and.
Which was
the belts.
quite the takeoff from the old like tiger stripes and blue outfits, matching outfits
Well,
like you
by
had.
the,
in-
Orient Express.
you know,
and
I know, but yeah. Did you have a preference?
Yes, Bad Company for sure.
Yeah. Did you know Bad Company, obviously the name of you,
Yes.
obviously a song
Yes.
by an artist named Bad Company
Yes.
off of an album named
That was
Bad
our
Company.
ring music.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Right.
The group, the album, the song,
song,
the
all
It was
Bad
my
team.
favorite
Company.
song
All, yeah,
since I was a kid.
right on.
Just
And I said, someday.
Our Bad Company was BA
Double D, baby. And that's a great intro, too. That was, oh my goodness. Yeah. It's a great song.
So, Paul, later on in your career, it kind of circled around, and you got to work with Shawn Michaels again later on in the '90s.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about that? And
I will. So I had went back to Tennessee back in 1997, and just working there, some independent stuff.
and this is when Shawn lost his.
Shawn, yes, but he also had a back injury, and so he was not working, and he decided he was going to start a wrestling school, and we had been in touch, and he invited me to come out and move to San Antonio and help him run that, and actually. For the time that I was there, I was like the chief bottle washer, everything that for him, and the most awesome feeling, right, was that first class that Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy turned out.
Yeah, listen to
had
this
in it
class. Listen to this class, guys.
Brian Danielson, Brian Kendrick,
Yeah.
Lance Cade,
Yeah.
and there was a fourth guy, Shooter Schultz. And all those four guys, I'm sure the fans know who they are, but so WWE came to Austin. Shawn had made arrangements for them to have a look at these young guys, and man, they put on a awesome tag team match, and they signed all four of them immediately to a developmental deal. So we're both, Shawn and I were standing there watching.
Wow.
And I mean, I was like started to tear up, man. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
That we had.
Yeah, all four of your initial students.
Yeah,
Right,
a full
right.
graduating class.
Right. Yeah. But I think we had talked about this before. Those guys, very talented, very determined. Brian and Brian were 18 at the. Well, so was Lance actually. 18 at the time, just out of high school. They were working at Pizza Hut to make a living so they could afford to stay in San Antonio, and they just knew what they wanted, and obviously Brian Danielson's still going strong.
You have any stories of their youthful indiscretions there?
You know what? No, because they were hanging out with the rest of the students, and we were sort of the trainers. So I'm trying to think if there was anything that. No, not really. I think the only thing I can really, and it wasn't that big a deal. They went to like a local show because these other guys that were locals in San Antonio, well, they were jealous because they weren't attending Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy.
Yeah.
And so, but our guys like showed up and caused some trouble at a show. But no, those guys, nothing ever really, nothing bad ever happened.
Good boys. Good boys.
But luckily, and unfortunately, that didn't. The school itself didn't last. Primary reason, so we wound up with a half-hour TV show on San Antonio TV, and at the time we were actually getting better ratings than WCW.
Wow.
But,
all action, no filler with you guys, I bet.
Right. But the problem was that Shawn, for some reason, we had a difficult time getting a sponsor for the show. So the money that Shawn was bringing in on the wrestling school side was going to the TV production, and so it really wasn't feasible for him to continue doing that. And his back had healed. I mean, we wound up working an angle there when the Texas Wrestling Alliance was going on, where we wind up having a hardcore match.
Yeah.
And that was kind of his first step of. He was, obviously, I didn't know at the time, go back to working full time for Vince.
Yeah.
But so that was we had made T-shirts and stuff. Actually, I have 4/4 for history. So it was April 4th of 2000 or 2000, I think it was.
Yeah.
And had that match. We for the ownership of the company, and so it was pretty cool. But that was the first match that he had in a while since he had the back surgery, and of course then realized that I guess he could do it for a little longer, and went back to it. So
yeah.
So when did you guys get back together and start? When did you stop wrestling together, or come together after?
Us?
Yeah.
Oh well, we stopped.
was around that
94-ish.
Yeah, the new age era there.
Yeah. Well, we both, we're done with with the WWF. So when the Orient Express thing, right? So the babyface teams they had at the time was the Bushwhackers, the Rockers, Heart Foundation, LOD, and we went through all four of those. And at that point, there was no babyface teams left for us to keep Orient Express going. So they just kind of split us up.
Difference. You had 5 dominant face tag teams at that point. God, tag team wrestling's really gotten lost nowadays.
Are there tag teams even? Oh, I guess there's some. I haven't watched much.
Yeah.
So Pat, where did this bring you in the late '90s? As he was getting, because at that point, Paul, you had one of my least favorite gimmicks that you had, which was the Max Moon gimmick. And so as he was going into the singles push, where were you heading?
I became, after that, I think, after leaving WCW, I became the booker for New Japan. And I started booking guys over there. But I made a couple mistakes. I hired the wrong people. And promised they would not misbehave. And the first night, one OD'd on the way to the show,
Oh no.
and the other one danced all night, and they couldn't get him in the bus. And so that didn't last long. And but then I started touring over there by myself, just going back to work. And then after that, I think I was put away for a while in a drug rehab, I guess, for quite a while. And you know, I don't know. After that, I wrestled here and there.
You know, and while we were off air, you mentioned a little bit about your time in a fledgling Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Oh wow!
And which evolved into something else entirely. But you guys, once again, I think a younger Paul Heyman was lurking around too. And tell us a little bit about that time down there in Philly, if you would.
Man, come on. No, but no, you know, it was good. It was ECW just getting started,
Yeah.
right? So the turnout as far as the fans wasn't anything like what it had eventually turned out to be. But Paul was very creative guy and trying to do things that, you know, you wouldn't imagine anybody would try. So we were working a program with Public Enemy.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where he thought of this match where one of each team would be having a singles match in the ring. The other two guys would be chained in a cage,
Right.
and there was an explosive there. And whoever won would get to unchain his partner. They had 10 minutes to do it,
Yeah.
and the other guy would be
chained
blown up. I guess I'm not really sure. So
Only in Philadelphia, you know, or,
right,
or
right.
maybe
Well,
in Japan.
not
but-
even in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Come
okay.
to find out, because when we got to the show, you know, Paul informed us that he wasn't able to get a permit to the explosion.
I'm sure you were terribly upset with that, Paul.
Horribly.
Yeah.
But so I was the guy that you know was supposed to be chained in the cage. Now this was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my wrestling career. So he had one side of the cage, just the, you know, the wire, right, and
Yep.
I wasn't even chained.
Right.
Since he wasn't able to do an actual explosive, he decided to use a audio recording of an
Okay.
explosion
There you
and,
go.
and a smoke machine. So when it came time for things to explode, the smoke was going to go up, and the people would. They were so stupid they wouldn't realize that there was an audio recording of an actual explosion.
Oh,
And
my
then, you know,
Lord.
I had to like
How'd you sell
walk
that?
out of. Oh my God, man! That
We
was-
didn't.
No, that was so flipping embarrassing.
Walk out with your heads
my
low.
goodness, then. Yeah, but so yeah. Other than that, you know, yeah, he came up with a lot of good ideas, and that wasn't one of them.
No. Well, you guys were a part of the beginning of something great down there.
We were,
so,
we were,
You know, be
yeah.
proud for sure.
I went back by myself back in '97. It was 97. So it was right after, yes, till '99. That is when I
Okay.
went to San Antonio to work for Sean. But yeah,
So you
at
did
that
some time
time,
with Paul in '97.
yeah. They were kicking it. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you in a particular area? Did you work with them? Just say like around Pennsylvania,
No,
New
they
York, or did you
he
tour
brought
in New
me. No,
England?
yeah, I toured with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Brought me in, yeah. So it wasn't ever a really big part of anything, but
Right.
you know, at least it was a job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a fun job. What a cast of characters.
Oh
there,
man,
too.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah, for sure.
Well, getting towards the end, we got time for a few more questions, Phil.
Really? We're
Wow.
cruising by, huh?
So,
Damn.
but what do you got here?
Well, let me take a peek. And we always, well, we try always to look and see what our people in the chat are saying. So
Okay.
Yeah, we have Loose Cannon talking about the 1991 Royal Rumble match with the Rockers. It's one of the best matches the WWF had up until that point.
Well, thank you very much, Loose Cannon.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's appreciated.
Moose is a big fan.
Yeah,
Multiple fan.
Yeah, Pat did a flying turnaround chop that looked so awesome.
Appreciate that. I could still do it, but I have to be lifted by a truck
And Bruce and Phil are crushing it. Thank you, thank you, Luce.
All right.
They are, man.
So-
you guys rock.
And Maria noticed your bare feet, Pat, so the bare feet are on the screen and are now famous.
Oh,
Hey.
man.
Love it. I'm going to drive home barefooted tonight. I got a 3.5-hour drive, serious.
So, well, first thing I got to do is thank Mike Monte and Jimmy Farrell for letting Phil and I come on and do this, and special thanks to our guest on the couch over here. And as always,
great
we
pleasure.
normally
Very
have
welcome,
a
very welcome.
Pharaoh's final question, but Pharaoh isn't sitting to my right, so I've got to lean on this guy
All right.
to come up with a final question. Now, guys, this could be on absolutely anything. Could be sports related.
Could ask you your favorite pet animal.
Yeah, he might ask you
or-
what you ate for dinner last night. Who knows what's going to come out of his
Yeah.
mouth next?
Holy
But Phil, let me turn it over to you. The Phil's final question.
Wow, it's got to be something deep and esoteric here. It's one of the questions. It could be a big answer. If you could do it over again, what one thing might you change? That's a big question, I know.
The drugs?
Well, that's a very good answer.
I would have got
I'll
better
second
ones.
that.
Or cheaper, right? Maybe.
Right, either way.
Yeah. But maybe,
That definitely,
Yeah.
it for me,
Sure.
it changed my life
yeah,
forever.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I had mentioned to a few of the guys that I hadn't seen for a while. My ex-wife had OD'd back in 2016,
I'm sorry.
and no, not even that was enough to stop me
Wow.
because it wasn't going to happen to me.
Wow.
So-
Amazing.
Well-
Keep the good fight up, man. Yeah.
Listen, I have to give a hand out to our great guests tonight. Thank you
Yeah,
guys for
thank
coming
you,
out.
guys.
Man,
Really
thank you.
appreciate
You
it.
guys having us, man.
Super talents, man.
Man,
Thank
you guys
you.
rock.
Thank
We
you.
love you
for
all.
Very appreciated.
My second
Great
time
job
on
being
your
here.
show, and I love you guys. Thank
Love
you.
you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate
So
it.
you have been watching a special edition of Monte and the Pharaoh show. For the Phil and Eso show.
and Philo show.
And Phil, why don't you take us on out of here?
Hey, let's get out of here.
Later.
Peace.